host, Brian Haskell, and our special guest today is a janitor from ISC, or basically Holgetchel, Stan the Man. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good?
And I mainly do ISC, but I do, during lunch, I do bio and ISC for lunch, and then I have about 4.5 hours to clean the building after lunch is over and school's out, and I do.
So how's your job? So
You know, I've been at several other buildings. I've been out at Quilceda, and I used to sub for a long time, and they'd send me in the morning early. But once I got to ISC, and the students and the staff here, I just love it. I've had a couple other places they've wanted me to go.
really?
And I love it here. The kids are so polite and so well respected. I mean, you're just a step above some of the others that as a majority of any other school I've been to. So I love it here.
All right, so getting down to like your past and everything, like where did you graduate in like for high school?
I was born in Farmington, New Mexico, and at 12 years old, we moved up to Marysville, and we lived over at Sunnyside, right near the Sunnyside Nursery. As you go up the hill, Morgan Branch, they probably got a number on it now, but it was called Morgan Branch, and you can look out, see the Olympic Peninsula and everything from there. And I was into farming. I used to show sheep and cows and everything. And then in high school, I went to the old Marysville High School down which is now Totem, and that before MP was built. And probably one of my best memories of that is in 1965 there was a big earthquake.
Really?
And I was in wood shop, and our teacher, Mr. Rounds, looked like he was older than Adam, but and he could hardly move around, but he was in his either late 60s or 70s. He was old, and for a teenager, he was really old. But when the earthquake hit, I mean, the shop rumbled, the cement floor and everything. All of the kids, as soon as it had kind of quieted down, we went outside. And we were counting heads, and Mr. Rounds wasn't out there.
You got stuck?
And we could go in, and I yelled his name, three of us. Ron Hayes and I forget who the other one was. We're looking for him, and he never answered. We couldn't find him. After about a minute of looking, we found him under his desk, just shaking like this, like a leaf. And we touched him, and he was still shaking. I mean, he was just visibly, he was wiped out because scared him to death. I don't know, and he almost died probably. But anyway, and then after that earthquake, we went back to school, and about a week later, I was in the building that's got the cafe in now, and it was bigger. And I was in a room, I could see a custodian up on the roof. And the roof moved about 6 inches. Well, I didn't see him the first time, but there was a lot of commotion, and the principal was outside, and he had a big long stick, and I could see him. And he was pushing the wall, and it had moved about 6 inches. And then they immediately evacuated the school. And this is in April. They condemned the two older buildings because of the earthquake. And we finished the year out in the stadium, the cafeteria, buses, and that. And it wasn't the best experience, but we got through the year.
So like, more about your like high school like past. Do you do any sports or anything particular?
I did. I used to run distance, mainly. Well, as a sophomore, I ran the half mile and the mile and the 2 mile, and there was a runner in Snohomish, Ron Stern and I. We competed against each other, but everyone else, I could run all 3 races and win them. And then at that time, the next year, in our league, they passed the deal that you could only run 1 distance event in a track meet because they were worried about running too many distances too young, or that's what they told us, too young and burning yourself out.
Oh, well, like, did you know like any sprinters who are like really fast? Because I'm a sprinter myself, and my fastest 100 time is 12:2. Do you know anyone who can run faster than that in your time?
We had, and like if you went back to the yearbook 1964, we had a sprinter by the name of Bill John, and he was a football player, running back. He got a scholarship to the University of Oregon, but I don't know what his fastest time was, but he never got beat.
Oh.
In league play. At state he did, and they would have him run the final leg of a relay, and he could be 10 feet, 15 feet behind, and he could outrun anyone in place, yeah. And back in the old days, the good old days, they used to have a relay, a mobile, they called it up at Ferndale, mobile gas relay. I don't know if it's still going now, but teams from Canada and Oregon and everything would have sometimes 70 teams there, and everything would be a relay, like 400-yard dashman in a relay, you know, and like a quarter mile shot put relay, 4 shot putters in your distance, pole vaulters, high jumpers.
So you participated in relays, right?
Relay, or I mean, the high jumpers, you'd have 4, and the total height that they cleared were the winners. Now, if you had one jumper that did 14 feet and the others did 9 feet, you could have a team with 4 that could do 12 or 11, 6, and they'd beat the best one, but it was the 4 of them that counted.
Oh.
And it'd go until like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I usually ran the last race, and it was cold and tiring.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I had some track meets where it's really cold, and like one time I didn't bring any sweatpants, and I kind of suffered from that. It was really bad.
Well, my coldest track meet was in college, and we were running down in Colorado at Fort Collins in November, cross-country meet, and it was like 5 below zero, snow about 3 feet deep, and the wind chill factor was like minus 35 or something.
Oh my.
And it was a 5-mile race, and that was cold.
I don't know why. I wish I could run in like that cold weather. I don't know. I just like snow. So.
Well, I got pneumonia afterwards from that race.
Well,
so you pay the price.
Oh, well, you mentioned about like agriculture, right? Before you went up to Marysville. How was that like for you?
Okay, at Marysville, I mean, besides sports, FFA was one of my favorite classes, and I used to show sheep beef and dairy at all the fairs around here, go up into Canada, Linden and Mount Vernon, over to Yakima, of course Monroe, and Puyallup, and would show down into Portland and that, and would judge all over. And I was on actually, I judged dairy, beef, which was sheep and swine, and then poultry, and then the wintertime we'd do potatoes and crops. And at that time, Marysville, we got first in most every place we went. In fact, sometimes when we'd show up at a fair, they said, "Oh, doggone it, Marysville's here. They're going to beat us." And we did.
Well, that seems like a good benefit, I guess.
Well, and I was kind of competitive I have a twin brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm 20 minutes older, but I have a twin brother, and we used to, we'd judge together, run together.
So he did like sports with like you?
Yeah, we did the same things.
Oh.
I don't know why, but it ended up most of the time, now not always, but most things I was interested in, he was. And because sibling rivalry, you worked a little harder at it.
All right, so we need to cut to a quick segment. It's how to get out of class, and we'll be right back with you.
I wonder how I could get out of this quiz. Ring, ring. Oh, it's Baghdad Grandma. Hey, Grandma. What? You need me this instant? Your dog's dead. Oh, I gotta get there. My partner ate my quiz. My pencil broke. Done.
You know, Eleanor, if you keep staring off into space, you're gonna fail this test, right? You have 20 minutes. Get to work.
Welcome back to Charger Chat. I'm your host, Ryan Haskell, and this is our guest, Stan the Man, Janitor. Before the segment, you were talking about your twin brother, and I want to know more about that. Like, was he really exactly like you, or something different?
He still is. He weighs more than I do now, but I've had, like, our secretary over custodian, Donna, she didn't know I had a twin brother. Oh, she did know, but she had never seen him. And one day she was coming out of the Ram restaurant, and when she'd see me like in Fred Meyer's or something, she'd always come up and give me a hug, a sideways hug or whatever. And so she went up and gave him a hug, and he saw her coming, but he didn't know her. And she hugged him, and he says, "I don't know you." And she said, "Yeah, you do, Stan. What's wrong?" And she says, and he said to her, "I'm not Stan, I'm Steve." Are you? Oh, you're his brother. So about a week later, I was going into Fred Meyer's, and I saw her, and she looked at me, but she would not acknowledge me or come close to me until I said, "Hi, Donna." And then she came up and was herself, but she said, "I am never hugging you again without you knowing that I'm hugging you and not your brother." And anyway, now I can tell you about in high school. In high school at Marysville, and we had like 170 students in our class and under 500 students in the whole school back in those days. But we had, and I lived over by Sunnyside Nursery, and we had 2 sets of twin girls. The Hold'ems, which their dad owned the Sunnyside Nursery, and Keelers, which lived up top of the hill. So we all lived within half a mile of each other. And this one day on the way to, riding the bus to school, the 2 sets of girls wanted to switch classes. And they figured out that we had a math class and an English class at the same time. All 3 of us had the same. My brother was in a math class and I was in an English with Carolyn and Sally Hold'em, and the other 2 were in with my brother. And so they got with us and they said, switch with us. And we said, no, we don't want to switch. And finally we agreed to switch. So all 6 of us switched classes. Well, first the Keeler twins got caught, and then the Hold'em twins got caught. And they figured, well, the Waters twins probably, and they knew we rode the same bus, maybe they switched. So I knew that they had got caught, and they came in, and the principal comes up behind me and says, Stan, and I didn't even flinch. I just looked straight ahead. And he said, Steve. And I said, yeah, what do you want? And then there was 3 of them there, and they go back, and I could hear them talking. The girls switched, but the boys didn't switch. Steve's in here and Stan's in the other, and my brother did the same thing. He didn't flinch or nothing. He just, when they called Stan, yeah, what do you want? We got away with it, and they didn't. These girls could have killed us.
That's pretty clever. More about your brother. Like, did he ever like beat you? Sports? Anything? Who's the breadwinner?
He beat me a couple times.
Only a couple?
Only a couple. And most of the time I could beat him. Almost. If he stayed close to me, I couldn't out-sprint him. But most of the time, and he beat me twice as a senior, and but that's the only time I can ever remember him beat me in track.
So what does he do? What does he do now, basically?
He's retired. He, well, I can tell you, he was drafted in the service, and he joined up to, so he wasn't in infantry, and he went into, I think it was like ammo and like that, and he ended up after a year, that's when they had the draft, and before a lottery system in Vietnam War, they could draft anyone, and then they came up with the lottery system after we were in, and I got drafted about a month and a half after he did. But anyway, they had a lottery system that they put your birthday in the hat, and if you had if you were under in your birthday, if they drew it up and you were 50, you were going to be drafted. If you were over 200, you probably wouldn't be, in 300, for sure you wouldn't be drafted. Well, about a year after we were drafted, they had a lottery, and we ended up 348, but we were both in. And he went to Vietnam, and I don't know if you know much about the Vietnam War, but as an American soldier, if the Vietnamese were firing on you, you couldn't fire back until you got an okay to shoot them or whatever. And then Americans used to spray Agent Orange. Have you heard about that? Vietnam? Well, now anyone that's been in Vietnam and you're over 50, 60 years old, you're paying the price for Agent Orange. All kinds of health problems and that. And I honor anyone that served in any war, but Vietnam, guys my age, they're paying the price for being in Vietnam. And we just had, Memorial Day? Well, they paid a big price. Even though and a lot of them, when they get 60, they don't make it past 60. There's a few 70, but they're all paying the price of being in Vietnam if they were out in action any place.
Going back to your brother, like, do you still compete?
Let me tell you, after we went to college and we were in the same class, in agriculture class, and they used dynamite, and they were building a new library on campus, and they made a big boom, and 3 kids in the agriculture class immediately, and my brother was right there, hit the floor because they thought they were back in Vietnam and they were trained to mentally. And he'd still do that 20 years. If he heard noise, he automatically, it kicked in. You just hit the ground. And then, okay, go ahead. What?
Do you, did your brother, do you still compete as of now? Or
No, we're very friendly, and I talk to him at least 3 or 4 times a week. He lives in Smoky Point, and he's got so many medical issues. I don't even know half of them. But he had, they thought it was cancer in his brain, and he had for over 10 years migraine headaches and everything, and they've, in the last month or so, they've operated on him twice, and then and they said maybe it's from Vietnam, but he's had a growth in his brain, but it's not cancers. And then they've relieved the pressure. He's doing better probably now than he has in the last 8 years. But no, we're very friendly. We're not competitive, and he calls me to come help him. I went over and helped him with his garden last week, 3 different days. No. I mean, some twins are really competitive, and we're not. In high school, or we'd have the same clothes, and when my mom would buy clothes, very seldom did we wear the same shirt at the same time, unless it was by accident. We didn't dress alike. We just did our own thing.
We're gonna cut to a short break, and we'll be right back to you after this break.
Okay.
Going so slow.
This person's riding my tail.
Is she really making a complete stop right now? Hey, what the heck? You just cut me off.
Sorry. I just had to get in, sorry. Why is he swerving? Is he texting? I'm calling the cops.
Learn how to drive.
I was calling the cops because you were on your phone.
Oh my gosh, I guess we're just as bad as each other then.
Oh, just go around. Go around. Yeah. I was already there.
Just go.
Oh, go ahead.
Actually, you can go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're here first. So.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. Go.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. Just go ahead. You go
You
ahead.
first?
Oh, I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
No, really. It's fine. Go ahead. Go. Okay. Go. Yeah.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
Alright.
Come on.
Marysville. I'm your host for Charger Chat, Ryan Haskell, and this is our guest, Stan the Man. So, like, I've been noticing your cowboy shoes. So, do you have like a cowboy history, perhaps?
Okay. I normally don't wear them to work or anything, but I grew up, riding horses and animals, and I've always had cowboy boots, cowboy hat.
So you're always a cowboy man?
Yeah, and roping. I can rope you in a minute.
Oh dear.
But probably before I do that, when Nick called me and wanted me to be on, I said, well, how do you want me to dress? And he said, any way you want. And I said, well, do you want me to wear my cowboy boots and my cowboy hat? And he said, oh, well, if you want. And
Yeah, I just had to let you know.
I said, well, he probably, you probably don't think I have any. And he said, well, I doubt it. And I said, well, I could show up with my hat and cowboy boots. Well, I chose not to wear my hat today. But there's my boots.
Oh.
And then after I got off, I thought, well, I've got a shirt that kind of says, what does that say?
Says, I'm so busy, I don't know whether I found a rope or lost my horse.
Well, I found my rope.
Oh dear.
And I won't. But there, I roped you. And I know how to use it. One time I was in Scouts, and we were, as a Scoutmaster in Arizona, and we were taking 70 horses in to the Superstition Wilderness in Arizona, Superstition Mountains. And we had to go and get these horses. Well, I had this cowboy with me, and he didn't know I knew how to rope, but he gave me a lariat, and he said, can you catch a horse with it? And I said, when you point it out, I'll catch it. Well, he picked one that was running in this krill, the second one over, and I said, okay, I'll get it. And I roped it. He said, wow, you can rope. Well, anyway, and so because I was joking with Nick, I decided to wear my shirt and my boots today and bring my rope.
Oh. Well, it's been a lovely show today. Do you have anything to say for the show before we cut it to an end?
Do I have anything?
Yeah, do you have anything to say?
where I'm a custodian in this building, the way the staff and the kids treat me as a custodian, I love it here. I had chances to go to a couple other schools, and because of the students and the staff, I can't leave here. I just love ISC and everything it's about. And when you kids do something really good, like Kona was in the paper and different things, and I clipped it out and brought it today. But anything that you do, you make me proud.
All right, well, that's the end of our show. Thank you for your time, Stan. It's been really nice talking with you.
You bet.
We'll see you next time.